Well, we're back. It's time for another episode of the Lighthouse IT Solutions Podcast. Sorry we missed you last month. Griffin and I, we were out traveling and just didn't have an opportunity to get together. But we wanted to today because, well, one of the things that we want to talk about in the new format is when security things come around and what we can learn from them. And they're not always about small business, as is the case today, but there's always lessons to be learned. And we're going to dive right into it because you've probably heard about this if you are in any way, shape, or form have college kids, had college kids, or even just have a TV that turns on to the news every once in a while. And that's the Canvas breach.
Canvas breach. Yep.
It's
I used Canvas, so I'm quite familiar with the program.
It used to be something else, right? Like, because we're talking about Instructure, I think is what it's called.
Instructure, yeah. They bought something and then turned it into this and stuff. But Canvas, as it is, has been around for like 15 years or something. I don't know if it was Blackboard, admittedly. I think Blackboard might be a competitor. I thought it turned into that. When I was in college, we moved from Blackboard to Canvas, and that either evolved from Blackboard or it was just a migration.
Gotcha. Well, what we're talking about, if none of this makes sense to you, Canvas is a
it's an LMS, learning management software.
It's a learning management system designed for education, really for the education sector.
It is higher education mostly, though. Mm-hmm. Like high schools and such generally don't use it, but it is, colleges and community colleges and all that jazz.
And incredibly widely used by a lot.
15 some countries use it, and I think it's like 9,000 institutions.
Yeah. So it'd be kind of bad if you had, let's say, 3.65 terabytes of data stolen, because it's only like 275 million users, including their names, emails, student IDs, and private messages that have been sent within the platform. That would be pretty bad, right?
Yeah. Admittedly, I think that's one of the ones that I'm most kind of, freaked out by, because names and emails are scary and whatnot, and even student IDs to a lesser extent. But the private messages could be anything. I mean, I
think we are going. We'll dive in. I think you're right. I think the private messages is the one that kind of freaks me out the most. Not freaks me out. I think that's the one where you're probably going to see some people fired over, potentially. But let's dive right into it. It would be bad if that happened, and so that's what happened in April of this year.
Yeah.
Hacking group ShinyHunters claimed responsibility.
They're back. Heard them before. Ticketmaster, I think, was the last time we talked about them.
And Land Rover.
Jaguar
Land Rover Jaguar. If you remember, we talked about them. So it's return to the Shinies, and they went ahead and they breached Canvas.
Do you know what ShinyHunters is? Like it's a Pokemon thing. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
Yeah. The shinies are like, there's a unique color variant of this specific one. It's like 1 in, 1,000 chance of getting it or whatever. So there's a group of people who go and, hunt them basically. So I guess it's a Pokemon reference.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you can tell that there's quite a few years difference between Griffin and myself.
Yeah, I'm not even a Pokemon fan really, but
so the platform is actually used by about 41% of higher education institutions. So this is kind of a big deal. I joked, but it is 3.65 terabytes of data was what was exfiltrated from their network.
I don't know if that includes like file submissions from students and such, or if that is just raw like plain text data. Because if it's plain text data, like that's an absurd amount.
Well, it definitely tells you that there's not a lot of encryption going on.
And that it's centralized. Like Instructure has access to all of it. It's not like, a college has access to their own data and that's it. No one else can access it.
Yeah, they definitely got some very high level privileged access. Instruction. So this was happening. Instructure found out about it. Immediately tried patching the first time that they were being extorted. So this was all kept on the DL. They're very classy, these ShinyHunters. Tried patching instead of negotiating, kicked them out. So ShinyHunters basically said, you know what, we're going to not only take you off a second time, just so happened on May 7th during finals week.
Yeah.
So this is what really made it an interesting sort of situation. But they replaced the login page with the ransom note. So now it's not only that Instructure knows that this is being ransomed, now all of their clients know.
Apparently it prompted, too, when you were logged in already.
Well, I saw the photo.
Yeah.
I have some connections to that world, and I got to see the login screen.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's not great for them. And what had happened is, well, ultimately, there was another deadline that said that you're going to pay this or we're going to start losing data. We don't know exactly how much. There's some rumors in the neighborhood of $10 million that pretty much says, look, well, that they're going to delete the data.
Seems kind of low, honestly, for how big this is, but maybe that's just the first number.
It might have been that easy.
Yeah.
And there might still be persistence.
Not that I'm saying you should pay a ransom, but yeah.
Yeah, it's true. This, of course, the fallout to this is because Instructure tried to cover this up pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
The second one made it pretty obvious what was going on. And so there's a class action lawsuit, Homeland Security investigation. We've got, you said 9,000, right?
Yeah, institutions. And
considered one of the largest data breaches for education on record.
Mm-hmm.
So what we want to do is I want to talk about that. I want to break this down, Griff, if we can. Let's talk about it, and let's talk about what lessons we can learn from companies like Instructure. So, we'll set the scene.
You're a student at college.
You're a student at college doing your final exam, and a ransom note pops up on your screen.
For that Mississippi State meteorology student finishing their, was a 2,900 word exam essay, and then the ransom note appears and you're unable to submit it or anything, I'd be furious.
Free A. Thank you.
Yeah. I still haven't, I mean, we're not really even that far out still. Like, I don't know what the...
Yeah, we're recording this probably about a week and some change after the event actually took place.
So are people getting...
But it feels so apropos to discuss it and talk about it because, you know, if we look at it around April 25th, somebody gains access to the system. It's detected 4 days later. They revoke access. They say they brought in forensics experts. May 1st, it's publicly disclosed that the incident occurs on their status pages, but they say, look, it's contained. But they do announce that there was data that was stolen. Okay, great. May 3rd, ShinyHunters says, yep, that was us.
Mm-hmm.
3 days later, Instructure says, look, hey, we're back to normal. Everything's fine. Get back in there. You're cool. May 7th, ShinyHunter says, whoa.
Yeah, what?
Who said you guys were fixed? It takes them offline again. So apparently was not. And this time that's when they replace them with the login page. We see some partial restoration. I know a lot of institutions that completely disconnected. In fact, some schools even delayed the start of their summer.
Yeah.
Because we knew that, what is it? I'm trying to remember. I think it's either May 12th or May 13th was ransom day. That's when it was
like the deadline. Yeah.
Yeah, the deadline. Now they paid before all of that. We see May 11th. You know that they see that they reached an agreement with the hackers. That's code for we paid them.
Yeah.
But a lot of colleges were like, listen, that's the start of our summer semester. So naturally, they say we're not going to log in. We're going to disconnect. We're going to, and think about that. A school delays their semester because of this.
Yeah.
We still see some issues even through May 12th. And then, of course, May 13th comes, and we don't know. I mean, nothing actually happened, so that probably means the check cleared. But now it's Fallout time.
Yeah. 2 people get free A's. 2 people, how many people delay their semesters? How many, The Fallout's huge, honestly. And the class action lawsuit alone, like...
And we're dealing with a pretty prolific ransomware group, right? Like, you
dozens of attacks successful. Yeah, I mean, if you go to their Wikipedia page, it's a long list of successful attacks. They really started in 2020 as well, as far as we understand. I'm sure they came from different places, and it's a bigger group and whatnot. But there's a bunch. Like we said, there's Jaguar. I mean, there's even like a UK government hack that happened in the Ministry of Justice and stuff.
I believe we saw a couple of medical, but it does. I didn't. When we were prepping, I know it's not in our, but I think you even may have name dropped that, didn't they, to Harvard or something, or somebody like one of those
Harvard, Princeton, University of Pennsylvania,
hitting. So they've been targeting these schools a lot, and definitely seems to be a little bit more government focused.
Mm-hmm.
Most of their experience seems to be higher ed, but prolific in English speaking. It seems profile on them is that they're young,
and it's interesting. Like, I mean, Panera, Grubhub, SoundCloud, like the Aura company, like all these are pretty
Pluto
recent.
TV, which is nice because I have an account through them, so that's cool.
Yeah, Rockstar Games though, like it feels very young targeted. Yeah,
and Canvas is not. This is not their first time hacking Canvas either.
Yeah, it's at least once before, potentially 2. I think one was earlier this year, and then another one was 2 years ago or something.
The tail end of last year, I know that they had an influence on Instructure, had an issue, and it went offline, and so this is their. This should scare you. This is their 3rd time being hacked by the same company.
Yeah.
Or not the same company, by the same organization, which tells me a lot of what I need to know about the security practices of Instructure.
Yeah, they're not caring, I guess, about it, which is horrible. Yeah, or if they are caring, they're doing a bad job at remedying it, or at least putting in, some sort of security to it. Yeah, it's wild.
So we know they stole data. As a result of this, 275 million user accounts affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
What do we know was stolen?
In terms of the data, I mean, it's emails, names. We know for a fact that it's, like the personal information of each individual student. We don't know if there's like files and such that they had uploaded into Canvas and stuff, but private messages is one for sure, between at least professors and you, because that's how Canvas works. Canvas, you upload, your project work or whatever, or you do exams through it or whatever, but you also have the ability to individually message your professor. There is the ability to do like boards and stuff, to interact with other students and stuff, but those are generally, accessible by other students. So people don't generally put private stuff in there. But if you had a medical issue and you needed to call off, not call off, but not make it to a week worth of classes or something, you would message your professor most likely through this.
You had a health issue,
yeah,
and you shared it with your professor of like, hey, I've got this medical condition going on. Don't want anybody to know about it, but I want you to be aware that, hey, I'm not going to be able to contribute to class for a little bit. Or what if you were trying to email another professor about sexual abuse or assault?
Yeah, there's a subreddit for professors that is going crazy right now, because it's like, I've gotten messages about deaths, like a student can't attend because they had died, or there's sensitive information about accessibility things, or sexual assault allegations.
In all of this, that's why I said I'd be curious if this data would have gotten out, how many staff members, or staff and other students, right? I don't want to just claim it, but how much of those sensitive situations would just be leaked. And now it's not just that who did it, but who the victims are. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden it's like we're going after them. And, you know, because that's how the news cycle works, right? There is a safety in that system that these messages are secure, they're safe, they're private, and you know, they're not. It's really what we're learning is that this information, this data is sitting there, and we're now supposed to just expect that for $10 million, ShinyHunters will delete it. Now, we've covered in the past the reason that this industry can survive is they do have to be somewhat trustworthy. If you make a name for yourself as extorting and then getting the money and continuing to extort, then why would anybody pay you because they know you're a liar?
Yeah, and so, it is an industry. It's a global industry.
It is
a very profitable industry.
I think I used to say it was a top 8. It was like 8th. Yeah. I believe it's 4th.
That was years ago. So I don't know now.
Like if you were to give it a GDP, it's one of the 4th largest industries that you can that makes money. Yeah. Even still, and we have all of these security software. It's because there's a lot of people who don't take it seriously, and it's because of extortion. Honestly,
and that number includes like governmental, state-sponsored stuff and things like that. So the number can get very high.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So really pretty scary,
but they're probably not going to delete the data, as they say. Like it's very unlikely. Why would they?
They should.
So paying is, but
my gut is that they will. But my gut is why would they? And they promised to delete it, but will they hold on to it longer than they should?
Yeah, I mean, in 5-10 years when someone forgets about this or whatever and they have this data and they were like, well, I need some quick money, I'll just put it on the dark web for sale, and now it's out there, so what?
I don't know. Like I said, I think will they delete it? Yeah, eventually. That's how this industry thrives. You have to have some level of trust, otherwise, if you make a name for yourself as not commit, like I paid you your ransom. If you go against it, then who keeps paying you? But does that mean that they won't still run analysis on it and learn things and then figure out new targets? I don't know. Now, we are told that there are things that are not compromised as a result of this, right?
Yeah, I mean, even just like passwords, the IDs, the government IDs of the students.
Supposedly financial information is not included in the tables that they got.
But like what? From me using Canvas, from what I remember, none of that really was in there. Like my student ID, sure, but my government ID, no. I don't have any financial information.
Canvas is part of a suite of products, and I do believe that there is some integration with their other products, and it sounds like this is explicitly just the Canvas system that was affected. But they do have other products, and some of that other products does include things like scholarships or financial, all of that stuff, as well as your government ID. Interestingly, they said that the exploit was caused by an issue relating to the free for teacher accounts.
Yeah, the accounts, which I don't know specifically how that works because I've never used it, but is that a way that they can get in?
Is it like a trial?
Yeah, and then sign up with the college that they're associated with, and they get back in access or something. Yeah,
but it is interesting because, like you said, it makes you wonder about the databases not being properly siloed.
And it could always be a case of social engineering in some aspect as well. Hey, I'm helping out with this teacher, whatever. I'm an associate, whatever, and I need access to this, and someone just gives them access to something they shouldn't have. Who knows?
But how do you get access to
the full backend? Yeah.
There's something that was very, very wrongly over.
But Canvas is not going to tell us that, man. No, they should. They should be very open about this process. But
you should be falling on the sword. But we see this a lot. Nobody does. Nobody likes to take accountability, and that's really a shame.
Yep.
Why we feel safe? We talked about. There's a $10 million rumor that this was paid to. That was the settlement with ShinyHunters. They received digital confirmation of data destruction, and the hackers have promised not to extort the students or institutions individually. This, of course, has its controversies. Law enforcement, of course, we hear you should not pay ransoms.
Yeah.
That's part of you just invested $10 million into ShinyHunters, right? That's the thing. They have reason to go do this again somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do we do now? And so it's just we see that the data, like they said that they have digital confirmation, but Lockbit is a great example of a time where we thought that the data was deleted. It was not. Mm-hmm. There's not a true. You can make duplicates. You can make copies. As I said, do you, as a hacking organization, should you delete the data? Yes, because if you want to keep getting paid, the only thing is that if this is an organization that's motivated by money, then of course this is the direction that they're going to take. I think it's odd that they focus a lot on higher ed and government. Makes me feel like there's maybe a pseudo-activist component to this. So at what point do you become full activist and you don't care? Right now they're just trying to, they are making money to fund something, right?
Or it's just easy pickings. I don't know. Because they have a pretty large, broad industry thing. I mean, there's game development, there's, food organizations all left and right. I mean, like Keurig is one of them, weirdly, as well as Panera and all that. So maybe, but like the car industry too. I mean, the Jaguar Land Rover stuff. I don't know. AT&T's on there. Like, it's just kind of all over the place. Yeah. I don't know.
So, some takeaways. Let's talk about real world. You're sitting there, you're going, but man, I'm not a college university. Why should I be worried about this? There's a couple of problems that we've actually alluded to in terms of even like how I've talked. We did a session very recently on open source, and why have I become very pro open source over the years? And not that I was ever anti-open source, but I definitely preferred proprietary software because of certain warranties and guarantees. But in the cloud world, you're seeing a lot of vendor control, and vendor concentration is becoming a real risk.
Yes.
For instance, in our market, there's a giant company called Kaseya that has naming rights to a stadium, despite the fact that they said that they're only for our industry. Why do they need that? But they have a habit of buying lots of companies in our industry, and they have a very big sort of reputation of ruining those companies. My concern is that they have debts to pay. They ultimately are responsible to shareholders to make money, and they need to cut costs somewhere. And a lot of times that means that your product is not getting developed anymore. They're going to try to push you towards a more profitable product. They really just wanted those customer lists, and then once they kind of get that global convergence in their environment, they start making money. This becomes an issue. So in this case, this is a company that we have seen during, I believe it's 2020 or is it 2021?
2021.
There was a massive compromise of systems. That's our industry. That's a great example of a company that has dominated our industry and expanded and grown, and they keep growing. There's about 3 organizations that are dominant in our space, and as they buy up their competitors, we notice that the security becomes more lax. One of our vendors was purchased by them, called Datto, and they had, I think, at one point in time, 12 people on their security team. 4 of them were actually never reported into the office. They were paid for hackers to hack their environment. There are now 2 people in the Datto environment. That's 10 security people missing.
Yeah.
Now, you could say, well, we have this big organization. Well, if a company that was the Datto size needed 12 or 13 people, and you added to it, then you just overburdened your current staff.
Yeah.
And added to.
And from my perspective, it doesn't seem like Kaseya is a tech company. They're like an investment firm.
They're an investment.
So
a lot of these are.
Yeah.
Coming back to Canvas and things that you're seeing, when one platform dominates an industry, such as Canvas, they had a 41% market share. One breach has the ability to be catastrophic and have ripple effects through the entire industry as well as your business.
And that's global. Like the U.S. market is much higher in terms of the percentage. So this
shows us the need to diversify or have contingency plans as part of your vendor concentration. Again, this is why I feel so strongly now about open source, is because I own, possess, and control my data. Yes, I'm using this vendor, and in a lot of cases, you can financially support open source projects. They need it. And a lot of the cost of supporting an open source project is substantially cheaper.
Yeah.
Incident response transparency. Instructure initially downplayed the situation. Back to normal May 6th, even though there was still persistence in the environment.
Yep.
They were so focused on making things appear normal than they were about making sure that the threat actors were removed.
Saving face.
May 7th, what did we see?
ShinyHunters being like, what are you talking about?
We're still here.
We're going to put the login page as our
just to
ransomware
remind
node
you,
because
we're not going to take the environment completely. Here's our login. Here's your new login page, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, you want to try and hide this? We'll make it public.
Patching versus negotiating. There's a debate here that you can have. Instructure initially tried to ignore and patch instead of engaging, which provoked a more visible attack. Listen, we talk about how important it is to have an incident response plan. And sometimes you need to engage that plan even if it seems silly, even if it seems minor. They should have reached out. They should have patched and negotiated on the first time around. They should have known exactly what ShinyHunters knew, what they had, and where they were at. You don't know that when you ignore something.
Yeah.
If you ignore a threat, you don't know what they know.
Do you ignore a fire alarm? Like, even if it's just like, a microwave smoking?
The irony to that is I was in a building, somebody pulled a fire alarm, this is about a year ago, and nobody did anything. We all just stood around. Yeah, it was quite funny because everybody's like, well, I don't see smoke. They literally had to tell us to leave.
Huh.
And it was fake.
I was in a movie theater for the first time when a fire alarm went off. I thought that was crazy. Never experienced that before. That was like 2 years ago.
This was I was at a I was in a theater, not a movie theater, but like a production.
Oh,
and it had went off, and it ended up being fake.
Yeah.
I don't know where yours was. I assume.
No idea. It was the end of the movie, and I was like, well, I guess I'm leaving. Yeah.
But this does show you, what do you do? A patch versus negotiate. You should sit down and think. You need to have somebody smart on your side. And by the way, don't negotiate on your own. Everybody thinks they're smarter than. There are some fantastic forensics experts that, when we've engaged with some of them, the way they work is they find out what they have on you. That's what you need to know. You need to know, what do they have on us? You can patch the issue that you think is the issue, but here the whole time, they fixed the problem they thought was the problem, but ShinyHunters had persistence. Had somebody negotiated with them or started the negotiation process. One, it could have actually been more private. And two, they might not have had to pay a ransom. Maybe they did. But it's very likely they could have found out what they knew. So incident response plans are necessary. On the other side of things, third-party risk management. A number of our clients are required to fill out risk managements for their customers. Why are you not having your vendors fill one out?
Yeah. Makes sense.
We offer that as a solution where you can easily document. It lets you find out, because now it's all about supply chain, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you get hacked, like if your vendor gets hacked, that exposes you. You could be on the line for that vendor hack, right? If this had included financial information, schools would be named in this lawsuit.
Yeah.
If they're not already.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, Canvas is, and Structure is. But schools could be.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we go from here, kind of thing? Like, so understanding what your third-party risk is really important. And then we talk about the ransom payment.
Yeah. But this is just a good point to bring up in terms of, like, how are your backups structured and things like that.
Prevention, backups, and incident response plans being executed, that is always going to be cheaper than extortion.
Yeah. This is a good place to put the 3-2-1 rule.
Yep. And you can't be perfect all of the time, and we understand that. Like, that's just the name of the game, right? Mm-hmm. But you gotta try better. We gotta constantly work harder, and that's why I said one is the surface area. If you're dealing with a giant market share company, you have to know that they are going to be a bigger piñata.
Oh yeah.
It's not to say that somebody doesn't want to hit, like, again, I talk about data ownership with
mm-hmm.
open source, right? It's not that nobody wants to hit my piñata, right? And crack it open for the data that I have.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, at the end of the day, it's a piñata that has value. But that piñata is not the size of a Ford Excursion. So if I own my data, if I manage my data, I still need to protect it. I still got to protect the piñata.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, you may find that your cost of protection is cheaper than
a ransom.
Having a vendor and just sit for weeks without knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
If you work with protect data, this is the final thing. Identify your data and classify it right now. If you are dealing with sensitive data, you are very vulnerable. You need to be doing something.
Like education?
Encrypting data at rest is critical.
Mm-hmm.
MFA, network segmentation, complex passwords, encryption at rest instead of just in transit.
Mm-hmm.
These are all big things that can make a big difference.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Basically, if you ransom your own data and you hold the keys and they steal it, then what use is that data to them?
Yeah. You've got the key still.
They'd be like, we stole your data, and you'd be like, try to open it.
Yes.
It's encrypted, champ. As businesses, what can we do? We can challenge ourselves to do better. If you're using a cloud platform, you still need to have an incident response plan when the time comes, because it's entirely possible that that vendor becomes compromised. What is your data contingency plan?
Yep.
We get too comfortable that the cloud is redundant, and then what we find out is that these companies, backup and redundancy is actually kind of the least bit.
Mm-hmm.
They're really just focused on uptime and profit. Make sure that you are auditing your vendors, holding them accountable. Make sure you're using reputable vendors.
And then as a small business or business in general, just, training your employees for phishing attempts and things like that.
Yeah.
Very important.
For sure. For sure. Because you could be the entry point.
Yeah.
If you were affected by Canvas, this outage, there's some things I do want to tell you. You can do change passwords, obviously for Canvas, if they haven't forced you to do so already. If you reuse that password, especially if it's linked with that user ID or that email address, you should definitely reset those. Enable multi-factor whenever you can. Mm-hmm. I know it's a slight inconvenience, but man, if there is something that has a better than 98% chance of keeping your data, like your account, safe, you should be doing it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, MFA does that. Watch for phishing attempts that are going to happen. they're going to be using school names. They're going to know teacher names. They're going to know course info. They're going to know a lot more data than they used to as a result of the information that was parsed here.
Yeah, use a secondary communication method to verify.
Maybe consider picking up identity protection if you are a minor or young, because there's a chance. It's probably slim. There was no financial data here, but you never know what aggregate of breaches that there are where they can connect some dots together that could affect your credit.
Yeah.
And, of course, verify breach notifications before actually clicking any links. Double check that that's who you expect a notification to come from, that it's not some random company that's pretending to be mycollege.edu, but actually the from address is xyzpdq123.info.
Yeah.
If that's the from address, you should probably not click any links in there. Wow. All right. I think we survived that one. If you were affected, I do hope that you get through everything. It's ideally not going to be too much of an inconvenience. We hopefully, like I said, Shiny Hunters, probably a very reputable hacking organization. So ideally, if they want to keep making money, they're going to appropriately discard that data. Does not mean that they don't have some good analytics on it, though. You can learn what you learn, right?
Yeah, you never know.
For all the rest of us, there's lessons to be learned in all of this, and that's what our challenge to you and why we do these podcasts. It's to encourage us to do better, to learn more, and do great things. We want to stay safe while we're doing amazing work, right? And that's really the balance that we're trying to maintain. That's not meant to be 6'7". Listen to this. I just kind of moved my hand. Sorry, but yeah. With that, Griff, I'll leave anything out for you.
No, that's pretty good.
Caffeine today. Special thanks to Actual Coffee and Red Bull for making this podcast possible. They don't sponsor us. We would fall over asleep right in the middle of it.
It's true.
So much appreciation on that.
My fourth cup, bud.
It's your what?
What? It's crazy.
Is it your fourth cup, or is it that those are actually 2 cups apiece and you pick your second?
Yeah.
He's upgraded. The Ember mug no longer keeps your coffee warm because you drink it too fast.
It's true. Yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate you joining yet another episode of the Lighthouse IT Solutions Podcast. We look forward to another episode where maybe it's not so sad and depressing, but we will say that we do plan on about 2 of these exposés a year.
Yeah, I mean, we put this in. We knew there was gonna be some sort of hack, some sort of incident.
Timeline.
Yeah.
So with that, I hope you have a great month. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Be checking out. There's lots of good stuff on the labs. I got to play with the DGX Spark, which is a locally hosted AI.
Yeah.
We talked.
We might even have a follow-up with that later, because some stuff might come from it. So
nice. The other bits and pieces are we talked a lot about open source and my changes on that.
Yeah.
One of our last podcasts, we discussed that in depth. I encourage you to go check out that episode. You can find us on Spotify, on Apple, all of your different podcast platforms, but also we're on the tubes of you. You can check us out on YouTube. There's video to this in case you didn't know.
it's true. There's even just a live channel on our hub, technically.
Oh, yeah. You can view the hub. We got Lighthouse TV sitting up there where you can just get random shows just streamed right to you.
Random shows.
Random shows as in like random Lighthouse episodes.
Yeah.
So if you like lots of content from Lighthouse, you're going to love Lighthouse TV.
It's like 5 hours plus right now. So
See?
yeah.
What are you doing? You got plenty to watch. It's about to be longer after this. All right. With that, on behalf of Griffin, I've been Matt. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Lighthouse IT Solutions Podcast.
See ya.